Good morning, friend. I am Neeraj Kumar Dinkar. Yesterday we have discussed about the risk management. So, guys, today topic is same risk management. So, guys, this is a part two. As a safety professional, you know that if you are working a construction industry and any industry, then you have to know that risk management system. Someone say know that risk management easy to assist. If anyone asks two questions how to risk management, then easy to say okay, risk management is a systematic approach to work for the analyze the risk and reduce of risk by the controls measures that called risks. So guys, this is a very big topic if you are going to train them other persons. So guys, today we have discussed about the risk depend upon risk deep depend upon the hazards, upon the natures of hazards. So guys, you know that how many types of hazards is there if you are going to evaluate. First is there mechanical hazards. What is mechanical hazards? Mechanical hazards means of without rotating part. If you are using of machines without rotating parts, that is a most hazards in mechanical. Second thing, you know that second thing is their flying object from the flying object. If you are using of grinder machines, if you are using of cutting machines like steel cutting machines, if you are using of bending machines, that may be chance of flying of object on course of training, on course of cutting and operations work. You know that someone's using of chopsaw machines for the cutting of steels. That times small particles flying on distance surrounding the area. So guys, there is maybe chance of this chance of small particles came into contact of eye. So that may be very most risk analyzed, because I am faced that problems in our projects. Some staffs are standing near the grinding near the chopsaw machines where two workers were engaged in chopsaw machines for cutting of steels. That times one supervisor monitoring that times job without goggles. One particles came into contact of eye. Eye will contact into eye is immediate swellings, and good after that going to after that visit of doctors, eye doctors clear that is retina problems. So guys, approx 1 to 2 lakh rupees pay money for the only for small particles, suspended particles come into contact of eye. So this is very most hazardous, and this is depend on hazards. So that called risk is depend on hazards. Eye means very important things, and very means if eye will be disabled to disability of persons, because of life is life is decreased if any one's damage of eye. So this is very important topic of mechanical hazards. So falling object, falling from height, if persons working on top, some particles, some materials fall from height and fall on fall into the human body. So this is very major risk if you are going to build up any constructions industry and constructions high rise building. So this is most hazardous. Hitting by object, someone hitting by object means you are using of forklift, if you are using of vehicles, if you are using the tower cranes. So maybe your poor communications, if you are using of tower cranes, some materials handling, that times hit to others others particulars objects like the columns and other things. So guys, this is a very important to you know that if you are going to risk profiling, first you have you are aware about these things, how to risk depend on the hazards. So guys, after that, second thing, chemicals hazards. You know that hazards, chemicals means flammable materials, explosive materials, toxic, corrosive, that all are a chemicals, that all are considerations of chemicals hazards. In industry you have also used the chemicals hazards like the curing compounds, and chemicals are also use of cements, and maybe use of waterproofing nitobonds and admixtures, that all are undercomes of chemicals hazards. So this is also very very hazardous and risky to work if you are going to work contact with the chemicals hazards. So you know that if you are working a concrete casting work, you know that there is silica and others chemicals is there. Persons continuous work with concrete, then maybe skin irritations, maybe contact of screens, and screen and damage, maybe dust inhalations, maybe damage of lungs of human body. Because of this is a fact to hazards. So that calls chronic and acute hazards. Chronic means acute hazards. Some persons using doing work more than 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, continue in the power in the plants like the admixture plant, RMC plant area. There is many dust generated during the work. So this is also very risky. Dear friends, third is there mentions electrical hazards. You know that electricals most hazardous activity in your constructions industry, in your also in manufacturing process and others thing. If you are living in rooms, there is also most hazardous of electrical hazards. So this is a depend. We are discussing about the depend on hazards, risk depend on hazards. So guys, there is a most hazardous activity in constructions industry and any industry, electrical hazards. You know that if you are going to if you have any faults, you have any mistakes, you have any defaults, poor maintenance your electrical equipments, poor maintenance of DG, poor maintenance of wires, and uninsulated, improper cablings, and improper groundings, like the earthings, that all are most hazardous activity of electricals. So if you are not taking proactively safety measures, that may be very hazardous, very risky job. If persons contact with the electricals, that directly is threatening of life. Because of if you have maintained the proper ELCV, if you have equipments, well equipments managements, that may be chance to save a human life. If you have no proper maintenance, no proper well equipments, no safety measures taking in proper cablings and DG maintenance not properly, so that may be chance risk is a very high. And if you are not taking safety precautions related to the electricals, that may be risk will be very high. How do we have resolved that issue? How do we have control the measures, proactively improvements safety and your workplace? So guys, if this is also electrical fault, explosions and hazards, short circuits, that all are measurables, and risk will be very high. After that, radiation hazards. You know that if you are working in power sectors, Also I am working whenever when I was work uh, when I was working with the power sector, there is daily basis, basis, weekly basis radiography on regular basis, because of there are welding welding work is most of welding works related the tanks and others, tanks, water tanks, and many equipments, welding on regular basis, turbines. It's so there are importance of welding inspections, welding radiography check, because of this is a very sensitive work. So that times we have faced the problems radiography at your workplace. So safety precautionary measures should be done. Otherwise, maybe risk of um, a risk of effect of born generations. Maybe if a person's young persons working and contact with the radiation, that may be chance of generations, born generations is stopping, because of this is a very highly effective and radiations will be very high. So human capability not to survive. So that time, so we have to safety precautions taken, because this is not a immediate effect, because of if you have young persons contact the surrounding area, maybe chance of generic problems. So maybe not born the children's. This is a link and generations is very effective measures. So this is also risk will be very high. Except after that, environment hazards like the air. You know that nowadays many constructions company and industry and power plant sectors growth our India in very proactively and toward the growth our India. So that times very difficult to manage all things environment. If you are working in constructions industry, then you have to you always show your use of RMC plants and W suits and equipments, excavations work, dust excavations, debris throwing from high-rise building. So this is all effect of our environments like the waters, mm, water, dust, acid rains. Also, not if you are using of if you are establishment of power sector that surrounding the 6 kilometers, 7 kilometers area very dusty. You know that Delhi pollutions controls environment very polluted environments. So that this is also risk, risk of equity and chronic both are there. Maybe impact immediate if persons somebody facing the problems, facing the any illness, that times surrounding the area may be very effective. So guys, this is also risk if you are working with polluted environments. So guys, risk depend on hazards. After that, fire explosions. You know that fire explosions. What is fire explosion hazards? Like you are using, if you are using diesel, petrols, and oils which are flammable materials at your workplace. So this is also most hazardous nowadays. You know that using of LPG cylinders in a residential project, any factory and hotels. So sometimes some mistakes, some poor maintenance of LPG cylinders maybe blasted. So that times we have to take safety measures proper, because of this it depend on highly risky work if you are not maintenance on times, because of you know that on regular basis watching the TV and also read in papers, that times accidents frequency is very more and more because of poor maintenance, negligence of staff, negligence of some persons. So this is also most hazardous and risky activity. risky activity related the hazard. So guys, five six type of hazards. If this is dependency of dependency risk depend on hazards. If that means if hazards is always reduced, then risk will be always reduced. So guys, risk is what is risk is a potential to cause risk is a chance to harm a human and property. Because of risk is a probability and severity. Probability means probability and severity, that multiples that called all risk. So risk levels of three already we have discussed. Three type of categorized: low risk, moderate, and high risk. So we have to manage, we have to achievable medium type of medium risk and high risk. Always no compromise related the high work. Safety should be must. Safety precautions should be must on high risk activity. If you have risk will be low, then we can expose that time. So because of low risk, always what is the low? If you are a person so using of steel vendings, the on ground, there may be chance of small. So guys, we have to informations only low risk. If you observe any high risk activity and moderate activity, then you have to consider about the safety precautions. And we must be talk about the your project managements managers, so that can be resolved that issue. Because of high risk activity, not compromise and not only for one responsible person. So guys, entire team, if you are working a construction industry, any observations related the high activity, this is responsible to all of you to how to reduce that type of risk. Because of safety, if you are working in safety professionals, the only not safety responsibility, this is all our responsibility to resolve and reduce the high risk, and how to and take a good safety precautions during the high risk activity. So this is a very important part on profiling of risk at your workplace. Second thing, identifications of hazard and associated risk. So guys, how to risk analysis, how to hazard analysis, how to risk assessment. You know that first we have make a work method statements which are going to conduct how to step work activity. Then you should prepare the risk assessments here, FEMA fault analysis. All things are there, job safety analysis. So guys, identifications of hazard and associate risk, how to such type of circumstances the hazards risk should be identified. How to identify? If you have working a safety professional, suppose that any new activity comes come in your construction industry, then you have to consider, you have to make a proper risk profiling and risk assessment, and explain to all of you those peoples involved to the work, and those imply involved to the work. Proper make a risk assessments, and which are going those persons involved into the work. Then explain the hazards, explain the risk, and explain the controls measures that may be chance of reduce of your risk and accidents incidents rate your workplace. Second thing, adjusting activity means you have to complete, suppose the demobilizations of buildings, demobilization after completions of buildings. So that times it may be very negligible hazards and risk by the employer. This is a human behaviors. So guys, that times you have to consider about the risk and hazards. After the management change, you know that management change. Well, this times ISO also identify the management change hazards. If management change, like the equipment and persons. Management change means equipments and peoples and employer. And after that, process, if process have changed, that calls management. Suppose that um, you are working in construction industry, in residential projects. After that, you have changed the managements, and you are going to work of industry, process industry. So there is deviations will become, there is hazard identification should be compulsory. Suppose that one senior person's answer will be changed in an organization, so because general managers and managing director and CEO others thing. So that is impact. If changed, what will be aspect, what is the communications problem, so what is the new criteria, what is the experience of, again against against understanding of organizations, staff, workers, what they should want to improvements, what you are not aware about these things. So guys, make a risk assessment of if any management changes, equipment change, like you are using of tower crane, against instead of tower crane you are using the some others had movable tower movable cranes. So guys, this is a change of management. Then also risk assessment, risk analysis should be done by others thing. After the existing management change, existing activity, new exposure, infrequent in regular activity. Suppose that in regular activity, suddenly one activity happens at your workplace, suddenly some people say come your organization, suddenly some others external party come your side. So they should aware about these things, risk, our risk, what is our risk in our project. So guys, make a risk assessments, your visitors, if visitors came into site, what will be safety precautions, you have to how to understand that about the project details and project welfare measures, what is the rules, regulations. So all are depend on these things. Risk identifications tool and technique, this is a very important part of, if you are going to risk analysis, and technique should be must, you know that to carry out risk management effectively, it is a importance to first accurately identify all possible source risk of the project, and what is the aspect of safety, aspect of risk, aspect of hazards. So guys, need to be considered. First we have to make a documentation review. If you are working long term in safety departments, also make a risk assessment, make a work method statement. Then time to time need to be reviewed. If any observations happen, any observation, particular risk assessment, you have take a risk assessment and go through work on workplace, there is maybe some mistakes happen. So what is the your plans, and what will go what are